Okay, so I'm asked to share with you something very interesting this morning, and I entitled it, Why Give? Right? Now, I have to remove my spectacle because I'm basically a short-sighted. I can read small letters, but well, I don't need to see far. I see all of you blur, so I take it as you're all awake. That will encourage me, right? Okay, why give? I think this is a question. Sometimes even Christians ask, right? Why do we give, There's so many things to give in the church. All right, so later we'll touch a bit on this. But let me just very quickly give you some statistics. Something in the newspaper that you see, right? It says charity got 3.12 billion in donations for the year 2020. You know what is billion? There are 90, like. Yeah, this morning I just Googled just to check one more time that I understand it correctly. 90. Wow, I say that's a lot of money. People are giving so much. And he said it dipped, from 2019. But 2019 was 3.25. So the slight dip is not really a big dent. All right, in other words, Singaporean gave very generously. The second slide here shows that Singapore ranks as third most generous country in the year 2023. Do you know that Singapore ranked the third most generous country in the world? All right. And so in the World Giving Index, it says that Singapore was the third most generous country, but in the area of giving, we have 68%. That makes us the fifth most, giving people, Singaporeans, all right, in the world. Rank the top 10, right? We are the fifth. So in other words, Singaporeans, we are basically very, very generous and giving people. So I was just thinking, 68% of Singaporean gave, and that helped us to be ranked the fifth. But in 2018, we were actually seventh. So now we climb up the ladder. We are getting more and more giver. So I was just thinking this morning while I was worshiping, I said, out of the 68%, I think most of them should be Christians. All right, because the Bible teaches us to give, right? So I hope you are one of them. All right, whether we give to charity, give to whatever cause, there must be a cause for giving. Now, maybe the question is reasons why people give. So I Google, check, Now AI very fast generate, but I read through, I just summarize some of the things. Now, it says it gives a strong sense of obligations. Basically, people feel that they are blessed in our country and therefore they must have something to contribute back. Some say it's a shared responsibility because now we are all in the same country. We all put in our effort, then we share with one another what we have. So that's a very good cause. Some find it's a personal benefits. Now, because by giving, you feel that sense of wellness in you, you're happy when you give, so it's personal benefits, all right? And some give, because of tax deduction. Do you know that when you give to charity with IPC status, then you'll get a 250% of tax deduction? Well, that's very encouraging, right? In fact, my community service treasurer, actually, he made a calculation. If those in this income bracket, if they give, in fact, they benefit, they pay less tax, So he did all the calculation and he's trying to encourage people to give. But not many rich people in our church, so not many hit that bracket. All right, but they still give, all right? They still give. So personal benefits, maybe a lot of corporates, they give. A lot of top range earners, they give. All right, so legacy planning is something that is ongoing nowadays. Many foundations are being set up, right? Because you want to leave their name, right? Then you have the Ng Teng Pong Hospital, they have foundation as well. Because all this built and their name stays, a legacy. All right, so if you are someone with 9 zeros, right? You may want to start the foundations. Because in foundations, you donate once and then this money, is invested and it multiplies and then you use whatever you have earned to give it. All right, the foundation can multiply. If you give one, some gone sometimes. All right, so they have way of looking at it. Sometimes people give with specific causes. Just like during the COVID, some people donated, all right, to encourage the healthcare worker. Right, some people donated because vulnerables in their home alone, they need help, so they give. Even during the COVID time, after the COVID, when it's open, I came back to church, I walked around the area, I talked to the hawkers, and I see quite pathetic, because a lot of stores are closed. Some of you been to Bethel, you know what I mean. A lot of stores are closed, so I talked to them. It's very hard to, because not many people are coming out. So I told the church, I said, every year we have this Love Our Neighbors. So what we do is, let's print vouchers again. So sometimes we do print vouchers. We talk to all the hawkers, the retail shop, and say, are you interested to participate, all right? And so Love Our Neighbors, instead of buying them a gift, we give them vouchers. All right, the time we are not so rich, we give every household $8. All right, I think last year they increased to $10. So they gave $8 to every household, and so those hawkers who say open up the shops, say, yeah, we accept your vouchers. So they will accept the vouchers. So in other words, while we celebrate Good Neighbors Day, the hawkers, the retail shops benefited. So we did that, right, to bless the community. So for specific causes, sometimes we think of ways to do it. All right, so now, just in case you think that, well, Nasser, you're going to talk about money also. Huh? No, I'm going to say that not only money, all right? The next slide says more Singaporeans giving their time and money to charity. They're also giving time to charity. There are more volunteers stepping up to volunteer, which is a very good sign. All right, but sometimes also not easy. Certain areas of volunteers are not easy. All right, and in fact, I told my wife, if I retired, nothing to do, really nothing to do, right? I'll be a volunteer, go to OH home or something, you know, find ways to do something. So I was being volunteered by God into serving in the AG office now and with Teen Challenge as well. So, you know, sometimes people give time to volunteer to service for a good cause. And you notice here, people are cutting hairs. In fact, better assembly, we have a team of people who volunteers. In fact, 2 of the staff went to learn how to cut hair, and then with a team of 6, I think now we have probably hit about 9 helpers now. So they came and they helped to cut hair for the community every once a month. But we did it a bit differently. So the people actually stylists, they actually work outside, they come and cut hair for the elderly. So every last Friday of the month, they did that. And one additional thing that we did, all right, this idea actually came from the staff. We said, can we celebrate their birthday as well? I said, by all means, do what you can, bring joy to the elderly. So when they come, right, they register which month they know their birthday. So for that month, they will sing happy birthday to them, give them a gift. But the very first one, they even cook them bowl of mee sua, and then 2 eggs, and then just to cheer them up. The old man came, the first one. He cried. He said, no one celebrated my birthday for a long time. Wow, my heart was touched when my staff shared with me. I said, wow, we did the right thing. I cheered them. I said, you all did the right thing. All right, so now we see more and more. Sometimes every month they come, 3 or 4 of them celebrate together. So now they don't cook mee sua. I said, I can't estimate. All right, so they come or they don't come. So they give them a gift, and anyway, when they come, they serve breakfast for them as well. So we did all that. So people are willing to volunteer times to come and serve. Now, what do Christians normally give to God? All right, what do we give to God? I think there are 3 things I taught, in my, last time we called follow-up lessons. So I taught them about 3 T's about what we give, all right? Next slide. The 3 T's, what do we usually give to God? Time, talents, and treasure. All right, very easy to remember. Time, talents, and treasure. All right, do you know all these 3 things actually comes from God? Let me just quickly explain. Time is life. You give time, is life. So don't waste people's time, all right? When you tell people at a certain time you must be there, or you make the poor guy sitting there half an hour, then you turn up. So you waste half an hour of his life. All right, but nowadays I carry my iPhone, I can read Bible, I can read a book, I can do my PowerPoint or something like this, all right? So I try not to waste the time there. All right, so you can still, time is something that God gave you, it's life. All right. Secondly, talents. Where do you get your talents from? This morning we have good worship. Thank God for them. Those are gifts and talents God has given to the church. Those are handling the sound system. They are gifts and talents. They have good ears, to hear the sound, the perfect pitch that they are able to give you. So all these are talents that God has given. The Bible talk about it was God who gave all this gift to everyone. All right. And in the book of Exodus, when they were building the tabernacle, imagine how they're going to build tabernacle. All right, they have no school of architect and all that. But God says, I'm going to put my spirit on them. And 2 of the men, Basilia and Oholiab, all right, God poured His spirit, and they in turn trained the others, and they are able to build the beautiful tabernacle. All right, that is not easy. Tabernacle can take down. All right, they already have all this portable tabernacle in those days and then put up. All right, wherever God says, stop there and then stay the night, they will do that. So you can see that God gave talents, treasures. All right, all that we have, all the assets that we have, where does it come from? It comes from God. Although we say, well, I work very hard, right? It's true. If God don't give you health, you try to work. All right, if your company closed down, you try to say you work very hard. They can't pay you. All right. So you must remember, it was all come from God. If God bless the company and they're doing well and you get good bonuses, you thank God for it. all right, for the health, for your Christian attitude, character. Sometimes that also helps to, gain the performance, all right, and the bonus. All right, so all these things come from God. That's why even David, all right, I've always amazed at David. He said this in 1 Chronicles chapter 29, verses 11 to 12. Now, David has accumulated, the treasure, gold, material, silver, and so on. And he wants to build a temple for God. Even in spite of all that he has accumulated, what did he say in that prayer? He says, yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the majesty and the splendor, for everything in heaven and earth is yours. So everything, even all that I've accumulated, actually belongs to you. But I've accumulated for a purpose. So then he went on, yours, Lord, is the kingdom, and you exalted as head over all. Wealth and honor comes from you, and you, the ruler of all things, in your hand are strength and power, and to exalt and give strength to all. Earlier we sing, Jesus shall take the highest honor. All blessing, honor, and power belongs to him, because all this belongs to God. Even status, God put us, and then we become senior pastor. I always tell my members, all right, I'm first a Christian, not the senior pastor. One day I'll retire. One day I may not be a senior pastor, but I'm still a Christian. So I live the way I am, whether I'm senior pastor or I'm a Christian. Because first, my relationship with God is very important. I'm a child of God. All right, so we don't leave because of a position, because of our, but all these are given to God, positioning us to serve. All right, so likewise as leaders, the same thing. God positioned us to serve, and all these things that God has given to us. So let me just quickly go on. Then which of these three things, all right, is most talked about? Treasure, I think you know. All right, and among it, the most talked about is this word called money. All right, money not enough. It just helped Jack Neo to make $1 million kind of movie, right? It's in fact more than 2,350 verses in the Bible talk about how to handle money and possessions. Right? Someone say the word fear repeated 365 times. Now word fear not, fear not, fear not 365 times. One for each day, right, to remind you, fear not. But in this case, you have 2,350 times talk about money, right? So besides fear of everything else, you also fear of no money, maybe anxiety, right? Jesus say, do not be anxious about anything, all right? So you can see that money is a very important part. Why is money and wealth so important? All right, it's a very common sense thing. All right, but yet oftentimes we just take for granted. You know that number one, how we handled, the next slide, how we handled money and wealth will affect our relationship with God. In fact, Jesus told a parable of this steward who cheated on his master or the owner. All right, and so the day came, the master came to know and say, well, I'm going to call him to account. And so what happened to him? He knows that his days are up. He will be fired. So he quickly did something. He went to talk to all these debtors, and he manipulated the figures. He said, you owe so much, never mind, I cut down. All right, you owe so much, I cut down for you. So you pay less. But what was he doing? He was trying to make them obligated to him, to take care of him when he lost his job. So this guy, he plans ahead. He knows that, well, of course, Jesus praised him, not praise him for the manipulations, but he's trying to say that the children of this world is so smart, right? They know how to manipulate, to use all these, earthly resources, even to guard themselves. But in the story itself, you notice one thing. He cannot stand before his master because he cheated. He knows he's going to lose the job because there's no relationship. If he has a relationship, he won't cheat the master. And therefore, he knows that's the end of it. All right? And therefore, Jesus said in that verse, he said, if you then have not been faithful in unrighteous wealth, that's earthly wealth, who will entrust you with true riches? So in other words, if we turn the other way around, if God have, we are a steward, he gave all things to us. So all these earthly riches, earthly, material that we have, if we are not faithful with it, how can God then entrust us with true riches? All right, so we need to know that, the way we handle our money and wealth will affect our relationship with God. Cantonese say, gong qin sat kam cheng, right? You talk about money, I have lost friendship already. All right, so So we have to be careful if you... Now, second thing is that money and wealth competes for first place in our life. Do you know that money and wealth competes first place? That's why Jesus said, no one can serve two masters. For either he hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. Therefore, he says, you cannot serve God and money. So God and money is competing with one another for your attention. I think some of you probably face that. Sometimes you say, wow, so hard I have to give. All right? So you ask yourself, what's the reason behind it? All right? Of course, let's move on to the third point. All right? Much of our life revolves around the use of money. All right? How many of you didn't touch money today? Of course, pay now. Now you don't have to touch cash. But you still transact money, right? Yeah, you take a cab here, you take MRT here, you take public transport here, you still have to pay, right? So in other words, you start the day already money, all right? So by the time you're going to bed, all right, you bought breakfast for tomorrow. I usually buy bread and all that for tomorrow. So again, you prepare for the next day, you still use cash to pay, all right? So you're using cash. So cash is something, money is transactions going on in our life. You cannot avoid it. You can't avoid that. Right, so that's why it's very important, because we have to, deal with money so often. Therefore, it is an important part of our life that we cannot neglect, and we need to be careful how we manage the money. Okay, therefore, all right, the way you handle money and wealth will either help you to strengthen or weaken your relationship with God. Earlier, the parable I mentioned, how you handle money determines your relationship with God. And also, either you advance or abdicate God's purpose. Now, God bless us with money for a purpose, all right? Because money is actually a medium that is used, all right? It's neutral, that is used to facilitate a way of life. Actually, you need to purchase things and all that. So that's why money is a system that we use, all right? But God used that for purpose. Right? In fact, in the Old Testament, right, in the Mosaic Law, the Mosaic Law, they give more than 10%. Right? Some people say tithes when they are. No, it's more than 10%. I went to do a study and research it. Right? The first thing is that you give first 10%, all right, in fact, to God, and you bring it to the priest. The purpose of doing that is to maintain the tabernacle, and also because the Levites has no salary, they have no land. All right, the only tribes that have no land are the Levites. The Levites are actually being, later on being positioned to different part of the nation of Israel itself, in Judah, into Benjamin, all right, and all the other tribes. All right, so they have no land. They are there to serve as priests, to minister to the people. So they depend on the 10% that people give every year. The other 10% is every year, every Jewish man and the family, they will set aside and will bring this money to the tabernacle, or to the place where God will appoint them to come together to celebrate the festival. All right, so in other words, they will bring the money, and you read that portion in Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 21 to 27. Now, he says that, and you shall not neglect the Levites who is within your towns, for they have no portions or inheritance with you. So in other words, God remember the Levites. Take care of the Levites. All right, while you are blessed, remember what you have is to use to facilitate His purpose. So then again, another portion, if you read Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 29, all right, in that passage, 28 to 29, talk about another third portion that is to give every 10% every 3 years. All right, so now we divide it up about 3.333% every year. All right, so 33.333%. So it's 1/3 of what you have. So every 3 years, all right, you give another extra. All right, so of 10%. So now every year, what do they give? They give out 23.333%. All right, of what they have. Okay, now, and this portion was to give for the Levites. In fact, verse 29, it says, and the Levites, because they have no portion of the inheritance with you, and the sojourners, and the fatherless, and widows, and who are within the town shall come and eat and be filled. Right, and the Lord your God will bless you in all the works of your hands that you do. So in other words, God has his purpose, that the money that I gave you, the crops that you harvest, I want you to share with the people. I want you to take care of those who serve me, or the Levites. I want you to take care of the poor, the strangers. All right, take care of them. So in other words, God has a purpose. He cared for them because all are created by God. And to develop, or it will help us to develop or deteriorate our character. I think it's a common thing that we know that if people do not manage their finance well, all right, the first thing, if you don't recognize the source of your blessing, what will happen to you? All right, you ignore how you're going to spend the money. But some of us, basically, we are quite, good in that. All right, we know how to set aside budget ourselves, and then so that you can take care of different parts of your money that you have. Now, if we do not manage finance well, all right, we can actually deteriorate in our character. Listen to what Paul told Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. He said, for the love, not for money, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and some people, craving money, have wandered from the true faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows. So in other words, that people love money, right? They want to have more. What happened to them? Right? They wandered from their faith. They actually left their relationship with God. And therefore they do their own ways. All right? And therefore money is not evil, but the root, all right, the love of money is the root of evil. Okay, so having looked at this, now let's look a bit more to the scriptures, then why we give. I think I almost give you a very long introduction, all right? But now let's look a bit more specific. All right, so why give? Number one, giving is in our nature. Do you know that giving is in our nature? All right? Of course, many times we look at babies. Of course, now I have 2 grandchildren. And so they will hold things and will grab. All right? So many people say that, well, because children already come out, they know how to grab, and they don't release. All right, I think that's the first thing about touch, and they won't release. But on the other hand, as you grow up, all right, it's very hard to tell them to share, right? So then you can share. But I realized one thing, as you begin to educate them, yeah, they are very willing, to bring their things and share. So my little granddaughter, and I always notice that sometimes she unpack her cookies or sweet, then we say, okay, share everyone. She will go around, everybody, share. Then come back, leave a small few pieces. But she's not upset. All right, she's happy that everybody take a share of it. So there's something about us intrinsically. Do you know that you give something to people, you feel good? That's why it's the well-being. All right, because of course we look at it and say, thank God, we are able to give and bless someone. So you can see that it's in our nature itself. So number one, is practiced in Genesis. All right, do you know right from the beginning, giving to God was not something that was imposed to us. When you read Genesis chapter 4, the story of Abel and his brother Cain, he said one day, now Abel works, Cain works as a farmer, he grows crops. Abel, on the other hand, he took care of flocks. And so when the both of them came together one day and decided to give an offering to God, who taught them this? There was nothing mentioned in the beginning. All right, so in other words, intrinsically, they know that they want to thank God for what God has given. So Cain took some fruits, the grains from the field, and he brought it before God. Abel, it says, I read carefully all the words. Abel chose from among the firstborn, the fat one. He chose the best, and he brought to God. Perhaps one of the things is that in that part tells me that the grain is not the issue, but issue is the heart, because what did he choose? All right, so worship, giving to God is not about grain or animal offering. But then on the other hand, he chose the best, fat, firstborn, and offered to God. Then the other thing is that they both offered, but Cain's offering was not, accepted by God. And so Cain was very upset. God accepted Abel's offering, and so he was upset. Why was he upset? Right? Now the answer is, God told him this: if you have done it right, all right, would I not accept it? But because what you have done is wrong, sin is crouching at your doorstep. So in other words, something is wrong with his life. He's probably competing with his brother. He's probably not right, right? Therefore, when he offered to God, he come before God, probably he's not too happy. He gave something to God. And then God is already checking on him. If you do it right, I will accept it. But what is the wrong? I suspect it's more of the way his attitude was wrong. So where did they learn about giving? Right? I believe it's intrinsic. All right? Look at most religion today. People know how to give. Maybe they are being taught, but somebody should have started it somewhere about giving, all right, an offering to their gods. So the second thing about this in our nature is it was practice of tithing was before the Mosaic law. All right, sometimes we say that tithing was Mosaic law. It's not true. All right, during the time of Abraham, remember when Lot, his nephew, all right, and the other kings were being taken captive, what happened? Abraham came to know, he rushed down with his 370 over, house servants, and then they managed to fight the 5 kings, and then they managed to save every one of them. And so on his way back, he met Melchizedek, and he offered a tenth of what he has received, the spoil that he has received, and offered to God. So you can see that he already started with giving 1/10. Who taught him? I believe there's something in Abraham that the victory is not mine, it's God's. I want to thank God and I give a tenth of what God has given. The other person, it was Jacob. Remember Jacob, he ran away from his home. All right, and so on the way he came to this place called Bethel. So that's why you can remember this. All right, Bethel, and he fell asleep. The next morning he woke up and he told God, he says, God, if you bless me, all right, and when I'm saved and I come back and return back to my father's home, all that your blessing that you give me, I'm going to return you 1/10, he says. So he made a promise to God. God, if you bless me, I'll return 1/10. Where did this idea about 1/10 come from? I have no idea. But somehow Abraham practiced it. The grandson practiced it. All right? But then when you come... So also the third thing is the nature of God. The nature of God to give. Now you see, why did God have to create us in the first place? Isn't the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, they should be quite happy together, right? I always say this one thing, and this helps marriage couple and all of us to understand better. In the community of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, because God is love, the Son is love, the Spirit should be love, all right? Because that is their nature. Love itself needs to be shared. Love is giving, all right? And so in the context of love, the community of love, they say that let us make man in our own image so that we can share this love with them. You see, love is something that must be giving. All right? If it's not giving, you love yourself only. All right? Yeah, so you only love yourself, everything, very selfish, everything is self. All right? But your love is to express that sharing. And therefore, when husband and wife married together, right, they love one another, they want to share life, and therefore they have children, and therefore they will love the children that God bless them. So in the way, if you understand love and the community of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit and husband and wife relationship, it brings us a very beautiful truth that love is giving. And therefore, God so loved the world that he gave us his only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in him will not perish, but will have everlasting life. God loves us so much that he's willing to give his most precious and valuable person in this, in the Godhead itself, his only Son for us. So love is giving. So we are created in God's image. So if we are created in God's image, the nature of God is in us. All right? So the area of giving is in us. So you can see that, giving is our nature. All right? And the second thing is Jesus dealt with money issues. Jesus dealt with money issues in the Bible. So I just want to highlight 3 things. All right? Now the first picture that we come across is this verse that it says, in Mark chapter 12, where the Herodians and the Pharisees came together and they were trying to test Jesus. Now, the Pharisees and the Herodians, they're enemies actually, but this time around they came together. And they wanted to test Jesus, to trap him. And the question was, is it right for us to pay tax? Oh, that is a very dangerous how to answer. Right? The Pharisees waiting to say, pay. Then they say, well, then you compromise, right? We're supposed to give to God. Why you say give to Caesar? Then you say, don't pay. The Herodians will say, arrest him because he said he's not loyal to Caesar, right? So he was trapped in between. But what's the answer Jesus gave? He didn't give me a denary. Let me take a look. Whose head is this on this? Whose image is on this coin? The answer was Caesar. What was his answer? Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. And the people marveled. Pharisees, Herodians were caught. So why do you say that? I think there's something that we can learn from this itself. All right. He didn't say don't pay tax, but I believe tax is important. All right. Tax is something that we paid, and in order to take care of the system and the infrastructure of the country itself. All right. I was listening to a short video someone sent. This guy from the UK is living in Singapore, and then he was speaking in this little conference. And he said, now you talk about Singapore paying tax, Singapore have all this, But he says there's one thing, he says, you drive on the road, there's a proper road system. You don't see potholes in the road. But some of our countries, we pay tax, but still many holes, all right? So he said, you look at the system, you look at the bus, public transport, you look at all this, the housing, and I say, the tax went and he put it into use for the people. All right, so in other words, he was very appreciative of what Singapore government has done. So his election is over, so I can say that. How else do you think I'm publicizing, right? No. Now, so there's a place of responsibility for us that we need to do. But of course, on the other hand, there's the other portion. We need to give to God what belongs to Him. We know that the source of everything that we have comes from God. Therefore, we need to return that portion to Him. Now, why did Jesus pay temple tax? Now, there was a second question that he was asked. That, one day, the collector of the temple tax went to Peter and said, does your master, your teacher pay the tax? And he said, sure, he did. So he went back. Jesus told Peter, he says, does the son, of the loyalties like the king, do they need to pay tax? No, they don't have to. Therefore, he's being the son of God. Doesn't need to pay the temple tax, right? But he says, we do not want to offend them. We will do it. Go to the sea and then cast your net. The first fish that comes, open his mouth, there will be 2 coins, enough to pay for both our taxes. Why did Jesus pay that? He said that we do not want to offend them. Now, in other words, he's not against the paying of the tax, all right? Because the temple tax is used to maintain the temple, all right? Therefore, there's a need. Therefore, the people gave in order to have the continued worship, coming together in the presence of God. So it's a good thing to do, all right? So if we offend them, the word offend in the Greek basically also means being a stumbling block to them, all right? So in other words, if I were not to pay, although I don't need to as a son of God, but I will pay, so that by doing so, I will not be a stumbling block to them. Imagine if Jesus doesn't pay. Then people say, this guy don't pay, he's a prophet, he's a teacher, he didn't pay, all right? So, but then he paid. So there's nothing to say. In other words, he's not objecting to it, but I say we must still contribute, all right, to encourage them to continue in their worship. So I believe one of the things is that he gave up their rights as the Son of God, all right, not to be a stumbling block. So I think sometimes in giving itself, all right, we give because we want to be a part of this whole, and we encourage others to give as well. Now the third thing is that we cannot serve God and money. All right, Jesus taught this. I've earlier mentioned, so I'm not going to emphasize very much on this. All right, so because both are competing, all right, to be the priority in our life. So we need to be very careful. And the third thing is that giving is the matter of the heart. So I'm going to take a little more time. Giving is the matter of the heart. Earlier I mentioned Cain and Abel. They came before God. All right, it's not about, the offerings that is blood sacrifice or the grain. In fact, in the Mosaic law, grain offering has a place in it. Animal sacrifices has its place. All right, so there's not a competitions of which is more important or which is the one God will be pleased. But I believe it's a matter of the heart, as I mentioned earlier. All right, because immediately after God told him, if your heart is right, it's okay, you offered. But then heart's still not right. You call his brother and kill his brother. All right, so therefore it was the matter of the heart, not the offering. So the first one I want to show us is a matter of the heart. It is the fruit of salvation. All right, giving is the matter of the heart. It's the fruit come from within us that we have salvation in us. The story of Zacchaeus. Remember Zacchaeus? He was a short man, and therefore when Jesus passed by, Jericho, so he can't see him. He climbed up, and then he saw Jesus. Jesus turned around to him and said, Zacchaeus, I'm coming to your house today. All right, and so he immediately, very happily, he came down and he led Jesus to his home. What did he do that day? Zacchaeus told Jesus and the disciples, all right, he says, I'm going to give half of my wealth to the poor. And I'm going to return those that I've cheated 4 times. All right? Why he do that? Does he need to do it? Jesus didn't tell him to do it. All right? Remember, it's a heart issue. Come from within us. Nature. Anyone being Christ is a new creation. Something changed in our life. Here was one man who all of a sudden, he loved money so much. That's why he cheated money. All right? He reserved his wealth. That's why he's rich. Right now, he has Jesus. He recognized that's not everything that I want in life. What did Jesus say? He said, salvation has come to this home. He's also a son of Abraham. The salvation that came into life brought out the fruit of salvation. Giving. Taking care of the poor is I give half. Those who have cheated, I'm going to resolve this. I'll pay them 4 times. All right? So what else can we see in a man's life? The people who get back the 4 times, I tell you, they will be so happy, right? And say, this Zacchaeus, I think he's cranky or what happened to him. All right? He gave us 4 times back. The poor will be jumping and say, thank God for this man. All right? Suddenly, now he shares his wealth with us. All right? So you can see there is a fruit of salvation. So when we give, it should be part of us as Christians. I remember during my time when I worked, pay are very low. When I became a technician, I only get about 210. And that's with 2 increments after serving national service. All right, so you can see that they were so low, those pay. All right, but then I still, when I went to church, I learned about tithings are 10%. All right, so I've been giving my mom about $50. So after paying CPF, right, I only have very little, but still I give. And then I learned to tie, so I tie. All right, I went to learn to put an envelope those days. And then I tie every month, $21. All right. Then when I got bonus, I'm very happy. I also still tie. All right, so then they give missions. If I can give $10 to mission, I'm very happy. Okay, give $10 to missions. Still give. All right, then I still have to take care of my car loan. All right, still have to pay. All right, and I don't know how I survive. I survive. All right, yeah, honestly, I don't know how. So you think back now, how did it happen? In those days, like everything calculate, I can survive. Now I think that is how to survive. But you can, right? God never saw change. Let me tell you one of the things is that even when I do all this, I work, and every year I was working in the stat board. Every year when they introduce this performance bonus, right? They have this different tier. All right, the clerk came to me and said, "Wow, Mr. Chia, you're very, you're only 2% who get the 10%, and you are the one. That means 10% of the annual salary." So you're one of them. So the other one I know, he worked with me in the project. So second year, again, I got another 10%, right? It was like, wow, So in other words, God never shortchanged me. Whatever I gave, He returned me 10% back, right? So I gave, So you can see that God never shortchanged us, all right? So the fruit of salvation is something that you give because, God, this is something I must do. I've returned this to you. Of course, we argue, right? The Bible didn't say, New Testament didn't say 10%, right? But then, on the other hand, is this. At least the church tell me how much I can give, or how much at least I give. So let's set something for benchmark for me to do. All right. It's not about biblically New Testament must do that, but I think there's a benchmark so that when I plan my spending, I know that I will give this. I will give this for missions. All right. I still have enough, let's say, to take care of myself, and every week I can still give the love offering. I'll still give. All right. But God never shortchanged us. Number 2. All right. The Bible tells us. Paul tells us to be a cheerful, giver. Giving must be cheerful and voluntary. Now, in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 6 to 9, this was what Paul told the church. All right, he says, to plan, to give. All right, and he says this: each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly, under compulsion. For God loves a cheerful giver. So your giving is you decide, you determine. In other words, there's a certain element, or I would say, of stewardship involved. If God has blessed me this, I want to set this portion for the work of God. Right? Be it tithes, missions, or other building fund, because there's a need that we want to contribute. I will portion this and set aside. And he says that God loves a cheerful giver. In those days, Bethel Assembly, when you go to a church, the first time I saw this poster, God loves a cheerful giver. Right? Then the other one is more blessed to give than to receive. So it's like, wow, this church, very interesting, right? Yeah, and true enough, right? They collect tithes, then they collect missions, faith pledge, they collect building fund. Every month we give we give missions faith promise. All right? And sometimes wherever they heard about churches or somewhere have needs, the pastor will say, now there are needs here in this church, they told us a thing, and then collect a special offering for them. So in other words, wow, a lot of giving, right? But we are very happy, we apportion the money, we say, yeah, whatever we can give, we set it aside, ready to do so. Okay? So God loves a cheerful giver. I remember I was saving up money, the salary is so low, and my children was looking forward to a color television. I only bought a small Philips black and white TV, portable one. And then have to adjust the antenna one. Sometimes, then I adjust again, right? So my kids grew up watching that small, TV. So when I came to full-time ministry, that time before I came to full-time, so I was saving up to buy a TV, to buy a color. So I saved up 1,200. So I was very happy. I said, almost there, we're going to buy. They were raising funds for church building. So right there in the service, I was struggling. I said, God, to give, I don't have much more to give because, so when I went home one day, I decided to write a check. So that night cell group over, happened that the pastor came and visit. There was one of the pastors. I said, can you give this to the building fund? All right, it was $1,200. All right, that was a lot of money to me. It took me a long while to save it. And I gave it off happily, cheerfully, not angrily. I felt so happy that I can contribute to the church building. A month later, my mom called me one day and says, Beng Hock, have you bought the color TV? I said, not yet. She said, I just ordered one for you. All right. And she bought a better one. Last time the brand Sarah is a very expensive brand. So he bought me a better one because he said, I'm buying one for my dad. We bargain, they're willing to reduce the price, so buy one extra for you. Wow, so happy, right? It never shortchanged me. All right, because I'm willing to say, no, my God, I forgo this. It's okay. Your house is more important. So God loves a cheerful giver. You gave happily. I'm still happy giving, all right? I still give my tithes. I still give my missions, even though I'm not in the church, all right? Yeah, so, and Paul also told them in 1 Corinthians 16, he said, concerning collections for the saints, I directed the churches of Galatia so that, so you also are to do the same thing. On every first week, each of you is to put something aside and store it. So every first week, you set aside certain amount, all right, and you get it ready. When I come, I will help to bring this to Jerusalem, all right. So he was saying that you apportion. I think one of the ways is that stewardship of finance. Even if it's 10%, at least you know you are going to set aside 10%. You know there's a commitment for building for missions. You set aside for that. I was walking down to see the second floor. My mind is just visualizing. I said, wow, so good. I can buy over this, will be very good. Then the whole block, now I can put one big cross there because you are the only you're only person who owns this whole side of it, right? So Pastor Joseph said, yeah, maybe he can do that. That is something to explore. But I'm not just visualizing, right? But yeah, why not, do it, get an opportunity, start, reserving your fund ready the moment the prices went down. God somehow worked very miraculously, right? I'll share with you what my experience. Okay, so God loved a cheerful and voluntary. So you voluntarily put aside money to give and to bless. Now, third thing is the expression of worship. And this is something that I felt, I learned about giving. You never able to outgive God or even this lady who gave to God. In Matthew 26, verses 6 to 13, when Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, a woman came up to him with an alabaster flask of very expensive ointment. She poured it on his head as he reclined at the table, and the disciples saw it. They were indignant, saying, why this waste? For this could have been sold for a large sum and given to the poor. And Jesus, aware of this, said to them, why do you trouble the woman? For she has done beautiful things for me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. In pouring this ointment on my body, she has done it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever the gospel is proclaimed in this whole world, what she has done will be told in memory of her. Wow. You know, this act of offering that beautiful or the expensive perfume was a very significant thing. Jesus, in fact, honored that to say that what she has done, this must be proclaimed to all the world. In fact, all the four Gospels mention this. Right? In fact, in the Gospel of Luke, it was a little twisted. Luke mentioned that Jesus told Simon, who is the owner, he said, Simon, because Simon was troubled. If he's a prophet, you should know that this woman, you know, is an immoral woman. But just turn to Simon and says, and he asked him a parable. He says that, you know, someone owed a big sum of money and was being written off. And someone who owed less was written off. Who will love, you know, the master who have written off their debts? And of course, Simon said, the one that was more that was being written off. So he said, this woman, she knows that her sins are being forgiven. She knows that her debts are being paid. She knows she's being accepted by God. And therefore, she's willing to give her best. Probably the ointment, many Bible scholars say that that's something that she save it, buy it, to wait for the day of her wedding. All right? And she's going to break it and say, no, I'm going to do that. In fact, Luke tells us that the moment she came in, Jesus says that, Simon, even when I came in, none of you, you know, provide the water to wash my feet. None of you anoint my head with oil, which was customary in those days if you have an honored guest to your home. But in other words, the host did not honor Jesus. All right? They didn't bother even to wash his feet, didn't even anoint his head with oil. But here comes the women, and she did all that for him. And Jesus took note of that. You know, in giving itself, it's all in the heart. We appreciate God for what He has done for us. I think that's a very important part in our Christian life itself. I mentioned to you this, and I'm going to end with this story. I've tried to, some of you have been to Bethel Assembly because of the water baptism, right? You all use the place. Yeah, so, and you like the pool. In fact, I say the architect never consulted with me. I will make it a full length, then my staff can go and swim. All right, yeah, you should have consulted with me. All right, they just think that that's the best thing. Then after I'm done, they say, oh, yeah, why you do that? Make a whole length, you know. Yeah, now I cannot hack it off. Okay, never mind. So when we were doing the project itself, 2003, when I felt, you know, the prompting to start the building project, I spoke to my board, I spoke to my trustees, you know, give me different directions. So one day I called everyone together. All right, I said, let's really pray and tell me exactly what is God speaking to you. So one by one told me, Pastor, I don't think it's time to build. I said, okay, then I'll put it aside, and I'm not going to talk about building, all right, with you until the right time. 3 years later, 2006, one day I got that prompting, look into the building and do it, all right? And just to let you know, at that time when we were talking about doing 2003, all right, the building cost for the architect told me is about 8 million, and I can build a good, nice building. All right, prior to that, I was helping my senior pastor. I was talking to the architect, he said 4 million, you can tear down and rebuild. So around 23, about 6 years later, it was almost like double already. So now, I talked to the board. First person I talked to my associate pastor. Hey, what do you think, Pastor Peter? And he looked at me and said, I think we should build. I said, wow, last time you spoke so strongly. Now, okay. He said, yeah, I think we should. So I went to gather the pastors one by one. And I talked to my board. Everybody said, Pastor, I think we should build. I said, okay, so let's start the whole journey again. Got the architect to come and talk to me. You know how much he tell me now, Pastor? Cannot, the price went up. You know, all the integrated program going on, material price all went up. He says now it will cost you 16 million. In my head, I was like, oh, 4, 8, 16. 4 times I went up. But if that is what God wants to do, told them, then I might get the thing going. I told my board, let's get it going. All right, my senior pastor at that time was still with me, and he said, yeah, let's trust God. All right, so both of us strongly said that we're going to trust God for it. And so as we progress into this, and nobody is going to hate that project. So I said, I'm going to step in because I know strongly this is time of God. This is God's timing. So I chaired the thing and get it going. And one brother suddenly came back to Bethel. All right, he was used to help another church, so he came back. And he came back one day, I prayed, I said, maybe I talk to him. All right, he used to be in the building work before, so he knows something. So I talked to him, and he prayed, and he came back and said, okay, I'll take it on as a chair. So that relieved me. All right, in July, he has his first meeting with the committee, and in the room, they meet, and I stayed back. I didn't join the meeting. After introducing him, I stayed in my office to work. After that finished, I came out, I met him on the corridor. I said, I asked him, so how's the meeting? He looked at me and said, Pastor, 16 million, not enough. He said, I'm involved in government project. My friend was involved in a government project. It went up by another 50%. So just set aside another 8 million to make it 24. I was like, oh, okay, 24 million. Then I look at him. Then he laughed. He said, unless there's a recession. That was in July 2008. He said, unless there's a recession. I don't know why that day. He is as tall as me. So I look at his face. I don't know why I say that to him. I say, well, God can make things happen. What a silly thing I say, right? I said, yeah, God can make it happen. Now, in 2008, you remember October, I was at home eating my dinner. I was watching CNA. Every time I eat dinner, I watch CNA. And the headline was, Layman Brother Collapse. And then the next sentence, the newscaster was saying that they are expecting a global recession. My heart sank. Then I felt there was a voice saying, I did it for you. I said, God cannot, I said, God cannot. The earlier recession, Asian recession, I have people who actually lost their job. In fact, thank God, I told the board, let's set aside money to help those who really need help. So I said, God cannot. There are people who lose job immediately, cannot eat, right, but spray. Right? So I prayed. I said, God, you must keep, the people's job there and all that. I prayed, make sure Singapore will not suffer. But at the end of it, I told the board, met up with them, I said, let's set aside, same thing, money to help those who may lose a job. Do you know the global recession? Nobody tell me they're being retrenched. Either they're retrenched, they say that they got a big sum of money, can take care of themselves. Nobody came and said they really need help. All right, the pastors, nobody. I will ask my pastor, anyone need help? Nobody. So it's very amazing. All right, so we proceeded with the project, and then by the time the architect did the drawing, by the time of tender, the integrated resort project are finishing. All these contractors don't know where to park all their crane. They must find job, right? So they told me actually it's a good time. All right, so we got a very good pricing. The building cost us about 13.56 or something. No, 13.56 million. But plus everything in, we have to pay about 15, slightly below 16 million. All right, so we actually don't need to spend so much. So what happened was, at that time, we had to move out, worship somewhere. So we went different places. So my board also wanted to save money. I said, since Paya Lebar Methodist School allow us to use, but only in the afternoon. All right, so it's, the price is cheaper. We give our donation to them. So they want that. Okay, we did that. Oh boy, I lose 200 people. Some of them say, afternoon, all my plan, my children's tuition all affected. So they cannot come. Some of them say, Pastor, I will still come back after everything is over. Some of them took the opportunity to leave because they know building fund. Leave. So my boss was a bit worried. So they say, well, no, attendance drop. I say, yeah, I'm aware. Yeah, I'm praying. I say, well, because now building projects started, must pay progressive payment. And then the next thing is, I also told the board, missions must not stop. All right? Yeah, so the community service must not stop. All right? So these are things that we must not stop. We must continue to do. So they agreed. So come to the board meeting, every month I check the accounts, make sure everything is well. The tithes didn't drop, the offering didn't drop, building funds still coming, missions still coming in. I told the board, every month like that, 200 people left, but some of them actually still give because they say they're coming back. Now with the 100 over of them who left, sorry I have to say this, maybe God is doing a cleanup for us. They are the faithful ones who are going to stay on, no matter what. They are there with you, all right? And so we managed to actually, by the time the building was completed on the dedication night, I was so happy, but I hold back. I haven't talked to my board, so I can't do that. I was so happy that if I were to convince my board to use the general fund, all right, we can actually pay up everything already, the building. We don't even have to take a loan, right? And so by the time I met with the board, I told them my plan. I said, now, I think let's not overburden the people. Let's announce to them this coming January, the first meeting, Vision Sunday, I'm going to tell the people that we have collected enough and we are going to move some of the general fund to pay the remaining part of this building project. And so those of you, you have not fulfilled your pledges, don't worry, all right? Right? If you feel that unless, you don't have to give, but those of you still strongly feel that you need to fulfill, go ahead. We'll keep the fund accounts open until a certain date. All right, we told them that. So by the time Chinese New Year, we have all the money ready to pay for the whole building. All right, in spite of all the challenges that we face, God never shortchanged a bit. All right, we managed to raise more than that, 15 over million to pay up everything because the tithe still coming in. So we managed the finance well, and then we have the money to still pay it up. All right, at the end of it, before I left, we still have money, and they told them that's a portion then for future development and also improvements of the building. You need to renovate, repair. All right, so all these things that you find that God is a God who never shortchange us. One of the things is that I challenge the people to give. And for many years, I've saved up for a building project, but those days, not much. No building, so I put into FD. So I told God, I'm ready to give this amount. So not a big amount. So less than 20K, not big, because my pay also not a lot. So in other words, I told God, I'm saying, ready to give. When they are doing the pledge that morning, I debate with God. God said, double rate. I said, that means 40. I was like, how to do it? I do all my mathematics. A portion, cannot. I still have commitment. Then, the more I argue with God, no way, man. God, then next thing is like 50. I said, okay, surrender, 50. That's it, 50. So I went up to the people. I just want to make a commitment. I told them, as your pastor, I'm going to promise to give $50,000. Right? Do you know what happened when I mentioned that? I saw the thing came in. Different people, the leadership, they follow me, 50. Of course, some of them cannot match. It's okay, I'm not going to. But I saw a few of them did the same thing. It was a challenge, all right? And when you trust God, God just supply me, all right? Yeah, and I really want to really give thanks to God for all that. Not, it's not about trying to boast, but along the way, after the 50, we still need, right? I still continue to pledge and give, all right? So now, what I'm trying to say is this: when we must dare to trust God, giving is something that we give cheerfully, voluntarily, and the Bible taught us that we give so that to take care of the church. I know that you may have more pastors. You want to grow a church, you need more pastors. All right, so you need to take care of them. They're giving up a job. All right, I've given up a job, and I get a very low pay. That time when I got this new job, my wife was so happy. I was so very happy. I said, hey, now you can resign as a nurse. And she was so happy to take care of the kid. 1 month later, God called me into full time. I don't know how to tell her, but then she said God already spoken to her. So we both of us didn't tell each other. Our bank account, we subsidized our ministry actually. All right, and so at the end of it, we went through all that. It was very challenging, but God never shortchanged us. I always look back and say, God, you never shortchanged us. All right, because along the way, God just bless us. Later on the salary adjustment, later on they promote me and all this, a little here and there. My wife also went out to do part-time nursing, all right, and all that, just to make sure we continue to honor our commitment to God and to serve Him. And through all the years, I want to say this one thing, all right, that God never shortchanged. Now I look back, I told them, I says, even though I don't have much, if I'm not working, the CPF that I've saved, if I manage it well, I can take care of me until I say bye-bye to this world. All right, government has helped us a lot, right? So I think there's something about giving is that you give and God never shortchange you. So in closing, let me just end with this story about tithing. Last night somebody, I know that when I say the time. Now, last night someone sent me a video. I don't know why he sent it in the group chat. Normally I don't bother to see, but then something prompted me, take a look. I view it. It was a story of Mr. William Colgate. You know the story of Colgate Company? Okay, let me tell you the story of Colgate. William Colgate was born in England, and his father was a farmer, so he worked in a farm. All right, so farming is challenging and not, they're still living in poverty. He decided one day to leave as a youth, to leave home and to go to New York, all right, to find a job to do. And so he told his mom, and the mom blessed him. The mom, being a Christian, all right, opened the Bible and read Malachi 3:10 to him. And he said, remember this, all right? Malachi 3:10 is not to rob God of your tithes. All right, so you must remember, all right, when God bless you, remember always return what is due to God. So he went with that. In the ship, he met the ship captain, who is a Christian. And the ship captain prayed with him, all right? And after praying with him, all right, the ship captain, let me just try to get what the captain said to him. I've captured it somewhere, never mind. So the ship captain told him, all right, after praying with him, he says that, you must not forget, you give your life to Christ and do not forget to give your all to God. All right, he says, work honestly, work hard, and he just gave him some advice. And this guy told him that he prophetically told him that you will be a great manufacturer of soap. All right, so he found a job working for a soap factory. And the owner, saw that he's doing very well and he has entrepreneur gift, and he invited him to be his partner. So he partnered with the owner, and he did very well. So he gave his 10% every month from his first pay, and then when he took over the company, because the owner sold the company to him, and so he bought over, and he's changed the name to Colgate. All right, and so he has his company now, and every year he gave 10%, 20%, eventually it grew to 30%, and he went to give more. Because he sees something more than just about the blessing, because God's partnership with him, and God gave him. And so the money that he gave to support missions, church planting, and churches, and even caring for the poor. All right, you can see that how God can bless someone who knows to honor him and give and return what God has given. All right, so I would just want us to maybe sing this chorus together, an alabaster jar. And I ask that you will perhaps join me, quieten your hearts, think for a moment about how much God has actually blessed us. Because the way when you handle money and wealth will determine, all right, whether it will help you either to strengthen or weaken your relationship with God.